Here, we finally did it. And we have an assistant camera operator. Am I in the frame at all?
Just your shoulder.
My shoulder. I can move it. How about now?
Only if you lean forward.
All right, I will like back. And that microphone is out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me do actually one more. Let's see. All right. Okay, so why don't you tell me your name and how to spell it?
IT.
Well done, well done.
Gene McConnell, and it's Gene, and capital MCCONNELL.
All right. That always helps me when I do the lower thirds, those
Sure.
little titles.
That second C is a capital.
Okay, gotcha. That's always super helpful. I think we're gonna go slightly lower. All right, I'm just looking at your eyes to see the reflection.
Sure.
I like that reflection a little better there.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so why don't you just tell me freeform, what do you do? Like, what is it that you do?
Freeform, obviously, just it's a good question. What do I do? I think the way to explain what we do the best is it's relational health. Over the years, I've done a ton of work with working on addiction, trauma, relationship problems, but I never really focused in on what does it take to build a healthy relationship. And the more I understand how things are connected to how well we do relationally, or how well or not how well we do, right? So yeah, I think it's relational health is what we do. So I do a lot of teaching, training, groups, workshops, and to help people, empower people, give them the tools on how to build healthy relationships.
So you mentioned you didn't understand the importance of relational health. What is it you think people miss a lot about the importance of relational health?
The typical miss that it seems like it's a no-brainer, but it's really not a no-brainer. People think that they struggle with like alcohol, for instance, and so they're thinking that if they beat the struggle with alcohol, they've won. And the reality is the alcohol is just a symptom of the lack of connection. And if you're going to actually change the alcohol problem, then we got to fix the relational stuff that's driving my using alcohol as a way of coping. So it sounds like a no-brainer, but the quality of our life is based upon how well we're connected. And if we're not connected, then we replace connection with things that we can control: alcohol, drugs, pornography, food. But those are not the real issues.
So the real issue is some type of broken relationship.
Broken relationship, inability to connect. Maybe I don't feel like I have the tools to work through conflict. Maybe I don't know how to set boundaries. I don't know how to take care of myself. I'm caring for people more than I'm caring for myself. There's a ton of reasons why we go to something to fill our tank or to cope with pain rather than connect.
But some people don't need as much connection? Like, isn't connection sort of optional? Like, where maybe my personality type doesn't need connection.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who do need it. Like, maybe I'm one of the people who don't really need it.
So you would say that God created everybody for connection but you. It doesn't quite work. But at the same time, connection looks different for everybody, right? So some people need more. For instance, I'm an extrovert, and my tank gets filled by connection with people. The type of connection is what we're talking about. The connection is somebody who comes to me for needs and for help and support. Those drain you. And although I love doing those things, and it's part of the life I live, I still have to take time for having quality relationships that fill my tank. Ones that are not always asking me to solve their problems or needing something from me, and please help me with my relationships, to help me understand myself. The healthy relationship will be someone who you can certainly talk about your own stuff as well as they talk about their stuff. So there's equality, there's equity there. So equal vulnerability, equal responsibility, equal vulnerability, equal commitment.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, so a healthy person will have mutual relationships where you can kind of co-connect or connect with them. So what is it when the places you go, the places you're needed most, what are some signs that the type of tools you're training people in are like super needed? Like, how do I know that my community or the people in my life are missing this?
Well, the first thing that we see is we start talking about what is healthy, and it kind of reveals where everybody's at, right? So we're going to go, well, I don't really have healthy connectionships. I got a connection. I might be serving a lot of people. Maybe I might have 100 people saying they're my friends, but do they really know me? Do they really pour into my life? And or I might be in the place where I'm doing a lot of filling my tank, but I'm not doing any outgo. And you can't fill your tank and not give out. If you don't give out, then you kind of go stagnant inside. So you feel depressed, you feel lonely, you feel like you're not connecting with life. Might even show up as, I don't really know what my goal is in life. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't even know who I am. And even though I can read a lot of books and I can listen to a lot of YouTube, or I can hear a lot of sermons, or get involved in a lot of worship stuff, and still live a really healthy, connected life.
So you're saying that if someone feels adrift in life and doesn't feel like they have a sense of direction or purpose, that's actually connected to their lack of connection.
Absolutely, one way or the other, because the natural flow of things is that all the commandments are all hanging on two, and that is to love God, which is connection, and my connection with God, and second commandment is my connection, love others, and that is neither one of those are optional. And so if I'm connected with God, then it's going to be a natural outflow that I'm going to spill over into relationships. So the relationships become the secondary. If I'm using relationships to fill my tank and I'm not doing the relationship with God, then I'm short-circuiting it as well.
Yeah.
So I need to receive so I can give. And the piece that's missing in all of that is the third element that most people don't quite see in that. And that is that even though I'm supposed to love others as I love myself, so that means that I got to take care of my own growth, my own healing, my own how I'm filling my tank, what I'm doing with my life, where am I going, who am I. So as I get that sense of identity, then I can offer that sense that I have. So I can only love you or love others as I love myself.
So that connects with me. I believe in God and think that Jesus' commandments are kind of where I should go to lead my life. How would you explain to someone, or have you ever interacted with people who don't have that core faith? Would you have a different starting point for them of like, this is why it's so important?
Well, I think, so many times people fall into the trap of, the American values, which is the one with the most toys wins, right? I get an education and I accumulate enough education to help me be successful in whatever business or whatever ministry or whatever I'm going to do in life. My marriage, my family, as long as I am successful, quote unquote successful, I think I'm doing good. And what we find is a lot of people at the end of their life, they've done all this stuff. We have the Steve Jobs story where he's just like Mr. Brilliant, created all these things, just super successful, has everything at his feet, and his last words are, all that don't mean anything. And it can't buy my health. It can't buy my relationships. So the reality is that many times we get distracted by being successful and happy in the things that we're doing, but when we actually take a step back and look at, well, how is your relational world?
Yeah.
That could be a totally different animal, right? And so true success and true fulfillment really comes down to how are you doing with your son? How are you doing with your wife? How are you doing with your dad? It's relational. And we look at the end of life, people are saying their last words, and it won't be, I wish I would have worked more, or I wish I had more property, or I wish I had a shinier car. It really comes down to, man, I wish I would have spent more time with my kids. I wished I would have done a little bit more to fix or heal that relationship that's broken. So it's all about relationships, but many of us get distracted in the world we're in,
Why is it so powerful though? Like, why is there such a big disconnect between 30-year-old me versus 80-year-old me on my deathbed? Like, how are the distractions so powerful to stop me from doing the thing that's gonna make me the most whole my whole life?
Well, for me, I wanted to love my children well and give them a good life, and I wanted to do things different and I wanted to spend time with them, and I wanted to give them the best and have connection. But at the same time, I had this pulling thing of that I got to be successful so I can provide a future, so that I can have things to offer my kids. I'll leave a legacy, but that legacy to me was, $1 million in the bank. That was back in the day. $1 million don't go very far today. But the idea is that I thought that if I worked hard for those first 10 years so that, my wife could work on, you know, taking care of them and doing all the nurturing things and all that, I'll build this future. Now we have the money. Now I can retire and now I can be there for my kids. But the reality is, what I didn't think about was is that I can never get back time. I can never go back and watch my daughter ride her bike for the first time. I never can go back and watch my son hit that first baseball. I'm going to miss the things that are precious and valuable for the sake of thinking that if I work this way, I can actually enjoy what I have and not realizing I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed that I'll have 50 years in front of me or 20 years or 10 years. I only have today. And what is most important today is that my relationships, I'm leaving a legacy that says to my son, you matter. Yeah, I'm leaving a legacy that says you are important to this world. You have meaning, you have purpose, and let me help you get there. Let me help you understand that. Let me stand alongside of you, rather than I'll be back next weekend. Hang in there. I'll see you. And so they have to live their entire youth without me. And I think that the greatest pain of that is that kids learn to live without you, that you don't really count, that it doesn't really matter if you're in their life or not because they've learned to live without you. And I'm going, so why am I here then if they can learn to live without me? And so it isn't that eventually you won't be gone, but there's a reason why I'm taking breath today, why I'm here for this season in life, and it won't be just to collect a bunch of money and property, because that gets left over. I heard somebody say just recently, in 100 years from now, when all the people you know and all the people that are in your life, how many of them, a couple generations down, will be able to talk about who you are? Will it matter that what kind of house you had? Will it matter the kind of car you drive? What matters most? It's the legacy, the impact that you leave that will pass generation to generation to generation. So that's what true legacy is. It's not how much property you leave. It's not how much money you have. It's what you leave in the hearts of those. And the only way you leave that in the hearts is the connection. It's the relationship. So
basically you're saying, sort of, instead of using your bank account, how full your bank account is as the metric to a successful life, it's how full is the room at your funeral, almost, of like how many people were impacted
exactly.
by your life would be the real measure.
And money's not the evil, and you can have all that stuff. It's not saying I'm anti-money or property or all that, or education or whatever. But what I am kind of saying is that if you do that at the expense of your relationships, then you're really missing the purpose of life. So Jesus didn't die for buildings; he died for people.
Yeah.
So it's the whole idea of how do I invest in what God is doing in me, has done in me, and has taught me. How do I invest that to the next generation so they don't make the same mistakes and they can live life better than I did? But it comes based on relational health tools. How do I connect? How do I set boundaries? How do I deal with conflict? Who am I? Some basic foundational tools.
So you're saying they're basic foundational tools, yet massive parts of society are missing them.
Totally.
And don't have them. So how is it, what is it that you do then that helps give people, how is it that you give people tools? What does that look like?
Well, I think the most important thing that we provide is the importance of your story. Because most people run from their story. In other words, especially the darker that story has been, whether that's trauma that you experienced, neglect you've experienced, loss you've experienced, or the things that you've done, mistakes you've made, people you've hurt, addictions we've carried, poor choices. So we tend to run from our story and try to put the best foots forward to say, this is me now, right? But we don't realize the importance of that story, because everything you've gone through has brought you to this place where you have what you've learned, what you've grown through, the strength that you have, the understanding you have, your perspectives that you have, all are coming from this place of story. So why be afraid of your story? Your story is so important, and yet so many people run from their story. So what we do is we'll do, whether it's retreats or whether it's in my counseling or whether I've been coaching, and do all those things. But in doing so, my story is a primary piece in helping people look. Hey, he's been there too. He's gone through his own stuff. And if he can share that stuff and still be alive and growing, then I can too. So we set the path for, let's take an honest look at our life. Let's look so that we know where to go from here. What do we need to change? What do we need to grow? What do you want to become? What impact do you want? All determined by how well you know your story. So it's, go ahead.
If I'm hesitant then to where it's like, okay, I think you're right. I think I am hesitant to my story. I think I am dishonest. I don't want people to see the real me because I'm scared of it.
Right.
But I haven't done it for the last 40 years. Like, why am I going to do it now with you?
It's kind of funny that a lot of us think that our story is only as good as now. But the reality is that I look back at all the things I've been through and all the things that I've experienced in life. Think about people that are younger than you, that are in the middle of it now, right? And our story gives them a pathway of hope that they can get there too. But if all they see is, oh, this guy's look at his life, it's all together, he's got all these things, he's connected to, and he's going the direction he wants to do, and he's making all this, and they're seeing that and they're going, well, I'm not anywhere close to that. There's no way I can get there. So they have no hope that they'll ever change, and they want to go in the hole, or they hide. And by being open about your own journey, you're saying, yeah, I've been there, done that, and then some. And I've gotten to the other side. Here's what I've learned. You're giving them hope that they can get out of the hole they're in, and maybe you're helping them get out much sooner than you did, because you learned a few things in the past that wasn't really available necessarily. In my story, there wasn't a heck of a lot of hope out there, and the people who said they had hope caused more harm than they did good in the name of caring. And so I'm going, man, if I'm going to help someone, I want it to be real. It's not something I read in a book somewhere. It's not something I've heard in some kind of sermon or in a counseling session. I want to know this works. And so the difference that we provide in helping people is I'm going to use my story journey to say, this is where I've been, this is what I've done, this is how I've learned. Now you can do it too. That's really kind of what we're doing.
So basically, your authenticity and your willingness to be real and your willingness to share, that is contagious. Like, your hope is contagious.
Yeah.
When you're actually being authentic. So you encounter all your other encounters in your life, you're saying, were with people who said they had answers but really weren't being honest and open and authentic.
Yeah, typically when someone closes up their story and they're just going to talk to you about now, you might hear something. Maybe you might hear something like this: "Oh, I was a sex addict, or I was a drug addict 30 years ago, but I got delivered. I'm done. Now I'm fine." And that just like, really? I mean, you're just leaving me like, how did you get there? What tools did you use? How did you survive? We don't have anything to hold on to. But if I am just real and I just lay it out there and say, yeah, I was a mess. I did a lot of stupid things in my life, and this is the consequences. But, here's what helped me. Here's what it took for me to get there. You're laying your life out in an open and honest way for people to have a pathway to get where you go. And I think that if we look at our pioneers in the history of the U.S., that they did very much the same thing. They crossed the the prairies and the mountains, and no paths were here, and they created a path that many followed. But if they had not done that, nobody would have crossed that. Nobody would have gone there. So we're trailblazers.
Yeah.
Yeah, for our families and for those we love, and then for those who we want to reach out to and help.
So it sounds like what you're saying too is there's such a big deficit of real authentic people in society today that I could live my whole life and never encounter a trailblazer, never encounter someone who's actually modeling
Right.
what true healthy relationships look like even.
I think that people are tired of the plastic, the superficial, the I gotta be my best in front of you, but I live a life totally different. No, most people don't like that disingenuine, and we're kind of seeing that come out in society as we're tired of the face, the false set of face, the falsehoods. And it's not because somebody's just trying to be deceptive. They're scared spitless, right? So it's not like we're going to judge someone, but the reality is that we want what is real because we need real, because our life depends on real, because I got to live in the real world. And if I'm just getting falsehoods like no pain, no gain, stick it out, it'll be fine. Well, you can stick it out and be fine and still go off a cliff. You really do need some real practical, concrete tools. Not that that solves anything, but that gives you the ability to take the tool and do something. I can give you the best tools possible, but then I need to empower you. I need to equip you. I need to help you not just have the tools, but here's how you use the tools. And that's the relational piece that we bring to the table. So I can't tell you how many people that have come into our services and they don't know how to set boundaries. They don't know how to work through conflict. They don't know how to listen to each other. They don't even know how to communicate to each other. They don't know how to respond to each other. And they kill each other with their words. They don't even know how to build a future. So there's so much. Let me back up. There's a disaster we're in with relational health. And so our country also is, if I have all these things, I've made it, I've arrived. So we think that they've got where they want to go, but not at all. In many ways, all that stuff is just compensation for the lack of. So we're in a relational deficit. People are using. I'm gonna back up 1 second. I was just talking about this morning with the gentleman that we were having coffee with, and we have better communication than we've ever had, better ability to connect than we've ever had in history. So we think about how the telephone and how it's grown, and the internet and the connections we have, and now we can do Zoom and live video, and literally we have more ability and more ways to facilitate connection, and yet we're in the worst place we've ever been in our culture, in our history of connection. And we're at a place where, when we went through COVID, that everything went to video, everything went online. So even though I can connect with you on video, I'm not really in person, I'm just on video. So there's a superficialness that's taking place, even though we're talking in a real way, right? So our society has moved from face to face to online. And so a lot of people don't go to church, they watch it online. A lot of people don't go shopping, they do it online. We do everything. I say we as a society, many of the culture is moving towards less connection in face to face and more online. Why? Because online feels safer, because I can walk away without any trouble, or I can say what I want to say. Look at Facebook and look what people say on Facebook. They'd never say those things face to face to somebody. But so there's this thing that we're lacking the connection and the relational tools that we need to fill our tanks. And so we're more empty, I'd say, than we've ever been. There was a stat, I can't remember where I read it, and I need to find it. But well over 50% of our culture would prefer to begin and end a relationship online rather than in person. Yeah, we're going that direction. And unfortunately, we're seeing the consequence of that. Look at the addictions. Look at how the drug stuff is going. How, the porn stuff, the trafficking stuff, the food stuff. All of that is all growing. It's escalated. Even though we have more information today about drugs and its harm, more information about what to eat and how to exercise, and yet we're still unhealthy. It's not about the information. It's the fact that we're using those things to compensate for the lack of connection.
So are you, I'm just super curious then, are you seeing, is there a generational divide for people who lack these tools that you're teaching? Is it worse with like Gen Z or millennials versus boomers or is it just across the board everyone's just bad?
Well, I find the older generation has a difficult time being authentic. They were taught that you don't share, you don't even walk around in your shorts in front of people, right? So, I'm not saying underwear, I'm talking about shorts, right? Like my dad wouldn't walk around with his t-shirt off, So, I mean, that generation is more like you have a different face than what's behind closed doors. So that generation is more like that. The generation that we're in now, the younger generation, they're far more authentic in the sense that I'm going to just put it out there. But reality is they're not really authentic at all. They're just putting out this facade to keep you at a distance or to make you like them, but they're doing the same thing, just different way, right? Nobody's really, I should say nobody. Fewer people are actually sitting down and saying, here I am. And so I'd use the word intimacy. So that's intimacy, that you see fully what's going on inside, my weaknesses, my struggles, my strengths, my gifting. There's no hiding, no pretending. Somebody knows me with no self-protection. That I have at least one relationship in my life where there's intimacy, both from them knowing me and me knowing them. So there's mutuality, there's an equalness. So that's what we long for. And it doesn't talk about just marriage. This is about friendships too. That people who know you and they still care about you and they're still drawn to you and you still enjoy being together, even though you can be a total jerk sometimes, right? They still love you. And the idea is that we need those kind of relationships. We need them. It's not an option. We need them. It doesn't mean that I have to have 1,000 of those. It's just having at least one. And I have built those over a long period of time, so I have many, but it doesn't require many. But I am one of those guys that I'm relational and I love relationships, and so I build those everywhere I go. But unfortunately, when you have little, then you try to build relationships through your work or through your hobbies or through interests, but they're just about your interests. They don't really know what's going on inside, right? So.
Sorry, I heard people talking in the hallway. I'm just going to check my audio. I want to see if I was picking any of that up or not. Alright, I think we're good on that one. I don't think it's a big deal. Sorry.
All right.
So I think what we should do then is maybe, let me mute my phone, because I have a reminder here in 2 minutes. I want to try to synthesize or distill a couple of the things you said. So you mentioned people are being plastic, like there's a lot of fakeness in society, and then you mentioned that people don't even have one good friend, one good connection. I'm wondering if we can kind of just distill that idea a little bit to where it's like, okay, here's this big problem that I've noticed, and is that society's all fake. Everyone thinks you need to be plastic, you can only put your best foot forward, and it's resulted in then you don't even have one real connection. Like, people need real friendships to be whole, and that's such a big component that's missing from people. Like, I think that's a really good, both of those are like super important. So maybe if we can just tighten it up and just say it in really short, just touch on those two things and then touch on kind of where you come in to solve that a little bit. But we want to distill that, because you've made so many good points and so many good things, and I'm going to cut it down, but I think it would also be fun if we just had a really tight, if you can consolidate all that.
Sure. And I think we danced around it, and we didn't say it yet. But what drives that? Because we could get caught in the aspect of shaming someone for being plastic, right? And it's almost like they're being a total jerk. But the reality is they're doing it for survival, right? Survival meaning I don't even like what I have inside, what I see inside. And why would I take that and share that with you? I'm just guaranteeing you're going to walk away or shame me or judge me or hurt me. So I'm not talking about that. Let's build something that you will like.
Yeah.
And that's that superficial piece. Because I'm not letting you see me. I'm just going to try to build something from here. It's not that I don't want connection. I'm just too afraid to let somebody see that stuff. And so we don't have the tools to work that.
Yeah.
And if we did, which is what we provide, probably the greatest thing we provide is the tools to actually look at that, deal with that, and actually empowers me. When we deal with it, it actually gives me the energy. I want people in my world. It's like we awaken, and that awakening feels strong, right? Like, oh, wow, this is awesome. I want more of that, right? And so that's kind of what we're providing below that surface. I don't want people to feel shame for like, well, I'm surface.
Yeah.
And it's like somehow you're just gonna have to live with that. No, we want to give you the tools to taste what it means to let people in, and not all at once,
Yeah.
layer by layer by layer by layer, so that it's safe.
So they just learned that in order to get my needs met, I have to act this way or I have to do this to survive. But in reality, not knowing that you're not thriving.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the environment they grew up in, because survival skills are the thing we learn. We learn what it takes to survive and what we growing up, but not realizing that life calls us to thrive, not survive. And so our survival skills hurt us. They help us in the moment. They hurt us in the end. And so we have to move past survival, because we're meant to thrive. We're meant to have impact.
Yeah.
We're meant to live life at its full. And survival isn't.
Can we add? So everything you said there is amazing, but can we frame it in the sense of like relational survival? Because
Yeah.
it sounded like jungle, like you're just talking laws of the jungle, but we missed that relational element of like
Okay.
our
Yeah.
Relational survival tool,
Right.
or however you would
Sure.
frame it.
Sure. So, so many of us have been wounded relationally. We have stuff that has happened in our life that we're ashamed of. We don't want to talk about. We don't have answers for. Whether that's abuse that we've experienced, trauma, or there's been loss in our life and we haven't been able to put answers to it. So we relationally struggle from those things. And so then we learn to survive in that environment relationally. So we use the tools that we learn to survive in that moment to live life as an adult. And what we learn to survive with actually kills us as an adult. So we have to learn a whole new set of tools in a way of living that helps us thrive. And to thrive means to connect. So we have to learn how to, first of all, deal with the stuff that we're afraid to share, deal with the trauma, the ugly feelings we have about ourselves, the way we see ourselves in the mirror. We got to have the tools to face ourselves there. And as we love ourselves, heal ourselves, now we have something to offer others. And so we can open up that door and let people in to help us learn, grow, heal, and then gain the tools that we need to thrive. But one of the main things is that when I was 6 years old and I was sexually abused by an older adult, I felt dirty, I felt soiled, I felt damaged, and I felt like that was unacceptable, unlovable, and I hated that portion of my life. And so that went into a deep closet for me, and no one was going to get it. Because if I can't stand what I'm looking at, nobody is. And so I'm not going to risk that. And so I'm living life with a part of myself hidden that's meant to be seen. It's meant to be embraced. And if you imagine a 6-year-old boy walking into the room today, and that boy says, I've been sexually abused, would you shut him down? Would you say, hey, you're ugly, you're broken, you're stupid, you're dirty, and I wouldn't love you? No, who was going to love you? No. I would approach that boy, I'd give him a hug, I'd tell him it's not his fault, I'd cry with him, I'd fight for him, do everything I could to make sure he gets on his feet and heal. But somehow, when it comes to me, I do that for others, but when I come and I look at myself, I've internalized the damage, and I don't have the tools to see myself through a healthy lens like that would that other 6-year-old. And so that's what binds me. That's what holds me up. So when I learn to survive, right, I'm not going to let anybody see that because it won't be okay. Then I start living with those tools. Tools meaning I'm going to hide, I'm going to duck and dive. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to talk about what happened here. And pretty soon I've got a whole world that I'm protecting. And so then I really have no capacity to connect. And so I'm too afraid to risk this. And so I don't have the ability in my mind to actually be me and be loved. So I got to be somebody else. And so I divorce, this sounds really weird, but I divorce myself from myself. I actually disconnect from this piece to live.
Wow.
And yet this piece is important. It's valuable. It's just been damaged. So I need the tools. I need people to be in there to help me heal so that I can actually come out and be me again, right? And then live from a place of being alive, being thriving, rather than in, putting myself in a closet, right? So that's why so many times, that's why when we use the word plastic or superficial, we're really talking about we're hiding something that hurts, something that we're ashamed of. And to heal, to have healthy, I have to let somebody into that place. And that sounds like you're asking me to go jump off a cliff. So by us telling our story, we're saying, no, you can do that. Here we are. And yeah, I went through that too. Yeah, and I'm alive. And I'm thriving. And this is how. And so it provides a safe pathway for people to go, well, he did it. She did it. I can do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So is there any person that wouldn't benefit or doesn't need this? Like, is there someone that's like, well, since I don't have a husband, or I don't have a wife, or I don't have a mom, like I don't really need that because I don't need that type of connection? Or is it like, is there a type of human who wouldn't fit into needing these tools?
I think every person alive, even if they know some of the tools based on what they've grown up in, they still need to refresh them and to learn, and different ways, maybe different ways of going at it. But every person needs connection. So, if I gave you a blender and it's got a plug and all that, and it's perfect, it's brand new, and I said use it, and so you take a spoon and you stir the blades because you don't want to plug it in, right? It's meant, you might learn how to make that thing work without the real purpose, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is that blender was made to blend. And so when you plug it in and it's got source, then that blender works. Well, you were created with skills, with passion, with gifting, with purpose, but without the connection that brings life to make all those things work, then you're just surviving. You're just trying to make it work. But when you live a connected life, what we were designed for, then that connection brings the energy to move the tools, the gifting, the purpose in me that functions fully. When I'm fully alive, I'm fully me. I'm the best me possible. And that's when you sense, man, I want to become creative. I want to live life. I want to get out there and have an impact. Nobody has to get me up in the morning when I know I'm in purpose, when I am living what I was designed for. And to do that, I need connection.
That's awesome. I love it. That's a great metaphor. I'm going to bring this camera slightly closer, and I'm going to ask you like 3 more questions, and then we can wrap up. So I just need a second. Okay, so So my first of my last like 3 or 4 questions is basically, I'm gonna slide slightly further back. I think I can do better. All right. That's good. Okay, so you're doing great. I love that last couple metaphors. So as far as like the different types of groups or the different types of people you serve, or the capacities in which you kind of bring this
Right.
these seminars or retreats or whatever, what are the like main, is there like a main 2 or 3 different audiences or different venue styles, or is it all just the same? Like, are there different groups of people that need this, or is it all just like, yeah, churches, like I just do churches, that's what I do? Or is there like, who is it that's typically reaching out to you and needing your help?
Huh. It really, this actually hits all walks of life. For years we did teen camps, and where we would spend 5 days doing activities and also doing the work. And teens are probably the best to work with because they have not that many years of carrying trauma and debris and messes. They're right, most likely in the middle of it. So you're giving them the tools to navigate now, right? And so we're going to see the best results from teens because they're right in it and they're going to work their way out of it, and they're not carrying that debris for 60 years.
Yeah.
Right? The harder ones to work with are the older ones because they have 60 years of doing it a certain way, or 40 years or whatever, and they have to try to remember what happened. Mm-hmm. And the memories don't necessarily match the pain they're carrying. And so it's hard for them to remember or think about or recall. So it's a lot more difficult for the older population. But we get everything from, we accept 12-year-olds all the way up to till they pass away. And we see all of them getting something from it. And the key in this is that they want something more than what they're experiencing. But this touches all walks of life. But we do stuff for men, so I call that authentic manhood. And we do retreats, and we do workshops, and we do groups, and so forth. And I'm in the middle of this next year, writing a book to men about authenticity and what it means to be a man. But we also do co-ed, which is necessary because if we don't know how to relate with each other as men and women, then we always have this lack of tools to make it a healthy thing, and we always then end up being unhealthy in the way we're connecting with each other. So we do co-ed on purpose, but we provide a safe environment for men and women to learn how to connect and appreciate each other and build healthy relationships. We need sister and brother relationships. But the other aspect is we work in the anti-trafficking world. And so that world, both the women who have been trafficked and them working on their trauma and all the damage done and what it was like for them losing their life for however long, and then dealing with the lies and the debris. So we have the anti-trafficking world as well. And then we talk to the men who are consumers. So we have a whole thing on pornography and addiction and all that. But ultimately, no matter what framework that we work in, we still end up coming back to this thing of how are you connecting? So if the trauma's there, it's getting in the way of how you connect. You don't trust anybody. You don't want to be vulnerable again. If you're in addiction, it's learning to go to people and talk through it rather than use and try to cover over. So it's learning to, again, the tools to connect. It's all boils down to how well we're connecting.
That's awesome. So do you have any stories of someone who is super apprehensive or nervous that like maybe you shouldn't come, or maybe this is gonna be scary or hard, and then on the other side they were like a completely new, different person?
Let's see. That's pretty much everyone. Everybody's apprehensive at first. Let me think about it. So many people will come to the retreats with, I don't really have a story. And I'm not, my parents were perfect parents. They were great parents. They gave me a home, they gave me food, they provided all the things that I needed. I never seen them fight. They always told me I was special. I really don't have a story, so why am I even coming? And I think probably that person needs to come more than anyone, because there's no such thing as a perfect parent. That already tells me there's something wrong, because we all have flaws. We're all a mess. And so if you're telling me that your parents did it perfectly, you're lying to yourself. You're telling a story that's not true. Why are you telling me a story that's not true? So you're covering something immediately. So the reality is those people really have some of the biggest awakenings, because the ones who say they don't have a story actually have a story. They just have told themselves a story that keeps them from actually looking at stuff. So, I mean, if you'd have told me that, yeah, my parents fought, they struggled, but I had a really good childhood. I learned a lot. I saw my parents fight, but I've watched them grow. I went to school and I had a healthy, but my coaches were kind of mean, or I had some really hard relationships. So you're giving me real world, right? Then I could say, okay, that's more real. But if you're telling me that I had a perfect childhood, nothing's wrong, and I'm doing just great, you're lying through your teeth. And you don't realize you're lying, maybe. Maybe you've told yourself the story for a long time to cover things. But the reality is there's no such thing as a perfect life. If that was true, why did Jesus even die for us? Why would he give his life to purchase our salvation and our healing if we had a perfect life, if we were fine? He died for everyone. So he had to redeem something. What does that look like, right? And so the one that's the hardest to get to is the one who thinks they don't really have a story, the one that doesn't really think they need much change. Yeah. Usually they're the ones that need the most change. And we get people who come in and they're coming in with addiction, and their life is a mess, and they don't think that they can change. They've been to so many different things, and this is maybe just one more thing on top of it. And I love that, because they come in thinking that it's about changing the addiction, and we open up a whole new paradigm of saying, no, your addiction is not it at all. It's not it's not about you at all. That is just a symptom. And we actually start talking about what is real, and the lights come on. And then you can just see hope back in their eyes. You can see their face come to light. There's nothing more beautiful than seeing someone's whole paradigm shift about hopelessness and feeling like they're stuck, and that they're just one more thing, to seeing that they know what they got to do, they got some steps they can take, and they start seeing some real connections happening, and they get a taste of what it's like and what they need, and it's beautiful. So
that's awesome. It sounds like that excites you a lot. Is there anything else that really lights you up inside when you're doing these, that seeing the takeaway from people, like what? Because it sounds like that really gets you excited and going. Is there anything else that really you wake up excited because you're like, oh, I can't wait to do this next session because I know what's on the other side?
There are a couple stories that are teenage related, right? When I see a kid, a teenager, a child who has been harmed, or they're struggling, and especially in the harm side, because when I was sexually abused at 6, and I carried that till I was 29 before I ever talked about it, and so the pain of that, and the impact of that, and how it affected the marriage, and how it affected my kids, and how I related, and how it affected my relationships, and how I saw myself. Had I had the lights turned on at 14, 13, 12, and seeing that, and seeing for what it was, and getting some help and resolve, so that I see the world in a different light, that gets me going. So one of my grandchildren came to one of my retreats, and he was struggling but never told anybody, and to not reveal his story, so I'm protecting it. He was struggling, and he came, that first presentation that I did where I told my story. And I was sure that telling my story was going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to ruin how my grandson, or how my kids see me, my grandkids see me. And I'm thinking this is too much. But I did it, and then afterwards I'm sitting there, and he hadn't said anything, and we went out to the campfire. We were camping, and I back up. I spoke at this event. We were camping, and I agreed to speak at this event. Let's do this. Let's make this more concise. So I have one of my grandkids come and spend time with me, and we always go to the beach, and we hang out in Alaska and ride four-wheelers and have a whole lot of fun for a couple weeks at a time when they come. And a church asked me to come and speak. They asked me if I would share my testimony and teach. While I was camping, and it was only like a couple, maybe 20 miles away, so I chose to go ahead and do that with my grandchild's permission. So we went, and I presented my story, thinking that I'm afraid, how will they handle it? And so I didn't want to put it all, thinking of what I'm going to cut out, what I'm going to say to protect it and all. And I just kept thinking, no, I can't do that. I got to be authentic. That's who I am. And so I went ahead and did it. I just poured it out and laid it on the table. And then afterwards, we go driving back to the campsite, and he didn't say a word. And I'm thinking, what is he thinking? What's going on in his brain? But I just gave him some space, and we're sitting around the campfire, and I say, okay, you're killing me. What's going on? What are you thinking? And he looked up at me and he goes, Grandpa, you just told my story. And I was just like taken back, because I've been around the block with this grandchild, and no way would I didn't see any of this. And he just started opening up, and tears just started flowing for me, because first of all, he's telling it. He's got the courage to tell that story, right? He's telling me for the first time. He's not told anybody. He's telling me that story. And I'm just blown away by the fact that he's risking. And so I after talking for about an hour around the fire, I said, could you please, go to bed? Grandpa needs to think. This is pretty profound. And I'm sitting around the fire, and just by myself, and I'm thinking, man, how did I miss that? And I was kind of caught up in how could I miss the fact that my grandchild was struggling. And then it just hit me as going, Gene, what would it have been like for you at 12 if you could have sat around a fire and told your story and got it out about your struggle with pornography, your talk about the sexual abuse that have gone on? What would it have been? What changes would that have made in your life if you could have shared that? And I'm thinking, wow, well, that would have made a world of difference, because I've